Beneath the looming, impossible archways of Babylon, a choice is presented, not to the figures within the frame, but to us, its observers. John Martin's Balthazar's Feast, 1820, is not merely a depiction of a biblical narrative, the moment the writing appears on the wall foretelling the fall of Babylon. It is a vast theatrical engine designed to stage a fundamental human and political dilemma: the choice between collective, intoxicated delusion and the terrifying, isolating light of truth. Here, in this cavernous hall of his own design, King Belshazzar has constructed a reality of absolute power, a spectacle of consumption and dominion so complete it seems to defy the very heavens. The feast is the ultimate act of political theater, a performance of invincibility. Yet the dilemma, which Martin renders with Gothic grandeur, is that all such systems, political, social, personal, are built upon a foundation they must actively deny: the inevitability of a scale larger than themselves. The choice the painting interrogates is whether we, like the revelers, will remain willfully lost in the spectacle of our own making, or turn to face the cold, silent script of consequence. Martin's genius is architectural, and he uses the visual elements not as mere aesthetic flourishes, but as precise instruments of psychological and social control, first within the painting, and then upon us, its audience. Scale is the primary tyrant. The human figures are not simply small, they are crushed by monumentality. The hall is a canyon of civilization, its receding colonnades and vaults echoing into a gloom that suggests the bowels of the earth or the infinite reaches of a megalomaniac's ambition. This scale does not elevate humanity. It annihilates its significance. Belshazzar's court is a swarm in a geode, their power exposed as a pathetic fiction against the sheer physical weight of the empire they believe they command. The scale is a tool of control because it manufactures a specific feeling: awe blended with dread, the sensation of being both within a system and utterly disposable to it. Lighting orchestrates a moral and cognitive drama. The scene is lit not by God, but by man, a raging, centralized conflagration of torches and braziers that casts a hellish, wavering glow. This light is carnal, flickering, and inconsistent. It illuminates the feast's excess, the spilled wine, the contorted faces, the glitter of gold, but creates pools of profound darkness in the peripheries. It is the light of ignorance, of a truth that only reaches as far as the next cup. And then, cutting through this atmospheric haze, comes the divine script, a cold shaft of spectral light, sourceless and mathematical. It falls not on the king, but on the wall, the only flat, plain surface in the riot of ornament. This light is knowledge itself, absolute, dispassionate, and isolating. Martin uses these two light sources to control where we look and, more importantly, how we feel. The warmth of the crowd's sin versus the chilling solitude of the prophet Daniel, who alone sees and understands the script. Color is a symphony of decay. The palette is not rich but febrile, sickly yellows, inflamed reds, and the oppressive greenish-black of stormy bronze and distant night. Gold, the symbol of their wealth, reflects not sunlight, but firelight, making it look fevered and unstable. The robes of the court are lurid, their hues seeming to pulse in the unsteady air. This is not the color of life, but of fermentation and necrosis. It visually screams of overripeness, of a system at the peak of its corruption, just before the collapse. The control here is visceral. The color scheme induces a sense of nausea, of claustrophobic opulence, making the viewer feel the moral and physical rot of the scene in their gut. We need not look far to see the Hall of Belshazzar rebuilt in our everyday lives. Its architecture is no longer stone, but digital and social. Consider the modern corporate town hall, a staged spectacle of unity and success, projecting graphs of infinite growth on screens as vast as Martin's Babylon, while the silent writing on the wall, ecological collapse, systemic inequality, flickers at the edge of the feed, ignored. See it in the feverish, torchlit glow of social media feeds, where we feast on curated spectacle and performative outrage, our faces warmed by the collective fire of algorithmic outrage, blind to the profound isolation and disintegrating discourse it creates. Our political arenas are halls of performative consumption of resources, of credibility, of truth, deafened by their own echo. On a personal level, we each construct feasts of distraction. We build monuments to our own narratives, careers, identities, curated lifestyles, lit by the flickering, anxious light of comparison and achievement. We crowd our halls with the noise of obligation and entertainment to avoid the silent, plain wall where our own writing might appear. The diagnosis, the failed relationship, the simple, terrifying question of purpose. Martin's painting is a mirror held up to our own propensity to engineer splendor in the waiting shadow of our fall, to choose the warm, crowded lie over the cold, solitary truth. The bleak, monumental worldview of Balthazar's feast finds its clearest echo in the 20th century philosophy of Albert Camus, specifically his concept of the absurd. For Camus, the absurd is the confrontation between the human need for meaning, order, and unity, and the unreasonable silence of the world. This is precisely the drama Martin stages. Belshazzar's Babylon is humanity's frantic, ornate attempt to impose meaning and order, a kingdom, a feast, a godlike sovereignty. The vast, indifferent architecture that surrounds it is Camus' silent universe. The writing on the wall, Mene, Mene, Tekel, Upharsin, is the ultimate absurdist rupture. The universe, in its silence, has suddenly spoken, and its message is one of meaningless measurement and inevitable end. It is not a moral judgment from a caring God, but a cold, factual announcement of termination. Daniel, the solitary figure who turns from the feast to decipher the script, is the Camusian absurd hero. He does not flee the message, nor does he seek false comfort in the dying revelry. He confronts the terrifying truth of the limit. He acknowledges the absurd. The revelers, meanwhile, are those who seek to leap away from the absurd, losing themselves in sensual or political escape, what Camus might call philosophical suicide. Martin's painting, in its crushing scale and stark lighting, visually argues that to live authentically, one must, like Daniel, turn from the comforting collective fire and face the dispassionate script, however devastating. The only freedom, Camus would say, is in that clear-eyed acknowledgment, in the revolt of continuing to see and understand while stripped of hope for a higher reprieve. Balthazar's feast is, therefore, a permanent and somber meditation for an age hurtling towards its own precipice. Its message to carry into life is not one of piety, but of lucidity. It warns us to be architects of our conscience, not just our comfort, to be wary of the halls we build, the fires by which we warm ourselves, and the spectacles we accept as reality. It instructs us to listen for the silences within the noise, and to find the courage, now and then, to turn our gaze from the intoxicating crowd towards the plain, cold wall where the true accounts are kept. The feast is always tempting. The architecture of our own making always feels like a sanctuary. But Martin, with the severity of a prophet, reminds us that the most profound truths are often written in the hardest light, in places we are trained not to look. Our task is to dare to read them, to be the solitary figure of understanding in the cavern of collective delusion, and to find a dignity not in the scale of our constructions, but in the clarity with which we face their inevitable and often beautiful ruin. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing to the channel and smashing that like button. It helps this channel immeasurably, acting as our own small, sustaining fire against the vast, algorithmic silence. For those who wish to confront the scale of Martin's vision daily, the description below has links to find high-quality prints of Balthazar's feast for your own walls, a permanent reminder to question the architecture around you. I hope to find you again, and thank you sincerely for listening.